While all eyes might be on the Nintendo Switch, we're still seeing the good old 3DS get some support. Atlus has been steadily pumping out games for the system ever since its launch, with Shin Megami Tensei in particular being well represented. The latest release of the bunch, Strange Journey Redo, is a remake of the 2010 game for the Nintendo DS, and like the previous SMT remakes on 3DS, the game comes with a ton of new content and features. But are these changes enough to get old-timers to redo this Strange Journey, or is this game better left out in the cold? The story begins with a military team heading into Antarctica to investigate a phenomenon known as the Schwarzwelt, which is growing in size and consuming everything it touches. Your ship crash lands inside the Schwarzwelt, leaving the crew scattered with little hope of completing the mission or even getting back home. While things do get more complicated from there, the base of the plot is remarkably simple, something that makes the beginning of the game somewhat difficult to sit through. It takes nearly an hour of exposition dumping to get to the first tutorial fight, and another 15 minutes after that to start exploring the game's first dungeon, where the real meat of the gameplay lies. This wouldn't be so bad if the dialogue were engaging during that time, but a lot of it is repetitive explanations of what the Schwarzwelt is and how the game's signature Demonica suits work, which is far from the most interesting thing in the world. The narrative does pick up after the slow beginning, but only to a limited degree. The main characters aren't particularly deep, and if you've played a few other Shin Megami Tensei games before, you're going to know exactly what kind of role they'll all play. None of it is unbearable, but none of it is exceptional either. For a series with such a storied history for engaging plots and characters, it is a bit disappointing. For returning players, however, there are a few minor changes that might spice up the story when compared to the original. A few cutscenes are animated, which is a nice touch, and the dialogue is fully voiced as well. What's odd though is that the game only features Japanese voice acting, with no option to switch to English being present at all. Every other Shin Megami Tensei game on 3DS was fully voiced in English, and with pretty good performances as well, so this change was surprising. The Japanese voice acting is certainly serviceable, but it is an odd omission nonetheless. The game's presentation otherwise isn't too far off from what was seen on the Nintendo DS 8 years ago. The redrawn art and sharper textures make Redo a cleaner looking version of Strange Journey, but at the end of the day it's still a first-person dungeon crawler, and the graphics by necessity are going to be somewhat repetitive. The dungeon designs are interesting thematically, but one can only look at the same wall texture for so long before it gets a bit stale. The graphics are serviceable though, and due to the nature of this kind of RPG, you're going to be spending 70% of your playtime looking at the bottom screen map anyway, so it's not a big deal. The music seems to be mostly untouched from the original on DS, still featuring the same bizarre blend of orchestral ambience and weird fake Latin choir chanting. The style is iconic of Strange Journey. There's no other game out there that sounds like this. But unfortunately, I found that many of the game's tracks sounded too similar to each other to be truly memorable. While the game's main battle theme is phenomenal, the rest of the music grew tiresome very quickly. But as stated before, the aesthetics aren't the real reason to play a game like Strange Journey. This is a dungeon crawler through and through, and those who enjoy trekking their way through labyrinthine locations will find a lot to enjoy in the base gameplay. In many ways, Strange Journey feels much closer to Atlus's Etrian Odyssey series than to Shin Megami Tensei. There's a main hub where you can go over missions, shop, and heal, but aside from that, there are no overworld areas to explore or towns to chat with people. This game is all dungeons all the time, and the majority of your game time will be spent dealing with the various tricks and traps layered throughout. Each area introduces new wrinkles to the exploration, from one-way doors to teleporters to dark rooms to even dimension shifting. While the size and complexity of these dungeons can certainly be overwhelming, there is a huge sense of accomplishment that goes along with mastering a location and knowing exactly how to traverse it. The battle system manages to be a good deal of fun as well. In series tradition, you can recruit demons to join your side through often hilarious and just as often frustrating negotiation sequences, as well as fuse your demons together to form new ones. What's different is that the press turn system that many other Shin Megami Tensei games feature has been replaced with something called the Demon Co-op system. Upon hitting an enemy's weakness, other party members that match your alignment will get a free attack in, which allows you to shred through opponents' health much more quickly. This change not only speeds up battles tremendously, but it also adds a new element to the way you think about your party arrangement. Sometimes the strongest demon isn't the best choice, since if its alignment doesn't match yours, you'll be losing a lot of damage every time you use Demon Co-op. It's a great system, especially considering that your alignment determines your ending, meaning replays will have you using different demons as you trek to see all that the game has to offer. There is, however, one major issue with the battle system. The first time you encounter a demon on the field, it will appear as a blue blob. and it's only after you defeat that demon that you are able to see its design and name. This takes a lot of the fun out of exploring new areas, as you're always flying blind whenever you run into a new demon. While other Shin Megami Tensei games traditionally hide enemy weaknesses until you fight them a set number of times, knowledge of the demon's mythological origins, or even just knowledge of the series in general, can allow you to make some educated guesses at the very least. With the unknown demon system, however, you're literally flying blind, just throwing attacks out at random, some of which can be reflected back at you and result in your party being damaged instead. If I know I'm fighting Jack Frost, then I can reasonably guess that using ice attacks is a bad idea. But if I don't know that's Jack Frost, and I use an ice attack as a random guess, I'm going to be punished for something I had no idea was coming. This system isn't game-breaking by any means, but it does make the initial exploration a lot more tiresome, and it was something I was hoping would have been fixed in this remake. Thankfully, some things were changed for the better. You're now allowed to equip as many exploration sub-apps as you want, and you can swap them on the fly instead of needing to find a terminal or go back to the ship, which is convenient. There's also a run button for making backtracking faster, options to speed up or skip battle animations, an easy and hard mode, and various other quality of life improvements that make the game more accessible in general. There's also a new added dungeon, the Womb of Grief, which is massive and a ton of fun to explore, as well as story elements involving the brand new character Alex, which lead to 3 all-new endings to experience. The new dungeon alone adds at least an extra 10 to 20 hours of gameplay, so there's plenty to see even if you've explored the Schwarzwald once already. More content is said to be on the way in the form of DLC, but I was unable to access any of it in time for this review. Strange Journey Redo is an odd game. It aims at pleasing the type of RPG fan that loves dungeon crawling over everything else, and it does succeed at creating a campaign that kind of player will love. However, what it gains there, it sacrifices elsewhere, as the story is less engaging than others in the series, and the game as a whole is just not a friendly experience. Because of that, I can't really recommend it for newcomers to the Shin Megami Tensei series, or for fans who find the character interactions more engaging than the dungeons you trek through in games like Shin Megami Tensei 4 and Persona. For those that do enjoy the Shin Megami Tensei games that kick you in the teeth constantly, you'll find a lot of very challenging and rewarding dungeons to explore, but not much else. As for me personally, I like Strange Journey Redo. While the beginning is a bit slow and there are some annoying aspects like the unknown demons, there were several points where I was glued to my screen trying to find my way to that one last patch of dungeon left to explore. I'd definitely recommend this version over the DS original, but only if you know exactly what you're getting into. Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned to GameXplain for more on Shin Megami Tensei and all things gaming.